Everybody knows coming out of the 2020 election that young voters were crucial for Joe Biden's victory. It's a story that's become like almost cliche at this point. Obviously, there was good turnout in 2016, very good turnout in 2018, absolutely critical in 2020, as well as the 2022 midterms and special elections. And so Biden and his team seem to understand that, but we're gonna see exactly to what level and what they're willing to do with that information. We know that they understand that because they've rolled out the beginnings of this new strategy. So you might have seen this being discussed online. Their digital strategy team will apparently begin to connect with influencers across the nation to target those who might not already be following the White House or the Democratic Party on social media, or maybe people who don't follow mainstream media at all. They're putting 4 Biden digital staffers onto this outreach campaign to influencers and independent content creators. The staffers officially work for the White House, not Biden's campaign, but reaching young and suburban voters is clearly a priority. And of course, Biden hasn't formally announced that he's actually running for president. So it's possible there will be a shakeup to this or an expansion of the team once that happens. And I'm not counting yesterday's announcement that there will be an announcement that he's running. Dude, just announce. I get the political stuff behind the scenes, but this is a weird game that we're playing at this point. But anyway, Jen O'Malley Dillon, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, talked about this new strategy, saying we're trying to reach young people, but also moms who use different platforms to get information, and climate activists and people whose main way of getting information is digital. I get what they're trying to say. That's such a jumbled way of getting across. We just want to reach out to people who aren't going to be reached by mainstream media. We know that, look, CNN has an audience, but it's a very small portion of the entire potential news consuming population. So we want to get to those people. And so here's how they're going to do that. They've apparently already given hundreds of unpaid independent content creators access to Biden's White House, including Harry Sisson. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. A 20-year-old NYU student who breaks down the day's news on TikTok. Boston College professor Heather Cox Richardson, who has a widely read Substack and huge Twitter following. Those two things might become in conflict with each other thanks to Elon Musk's recent moves, but best of luck to Heather Cox Richardson. And Vivian Tu as well, a former trader who discusses financial topics in short clips on TikTok and Instagram. And what I like about that, and I'm sure it's strategic in terms of how they're highlighting some of the people that they're already working with, is it is very easy to read the headline version of this and think, oh, they're just desperate to get Gen Z people to do like dances with like pictures of Dark Brandon in the background. And I have no doubt that that's going to be a part of this, but they're also making clear that that is not the only form that it's going to come in. They're explaining that it's not just a video thing, it's not just a TikTok or an Instagram Reels thing. They want people who have these relatively semi-independent newsletter followings to start discussing Biden and his campaign in the 2024 election. Perhaps people who don't necessarily exclusively produce news or political news content, as well as focusing on people who might be interested in the business world. And I think that that makes sense. I don't know if you were to break down those hundreds, because I don't have access to the list, is it actually that split? But I think it's an interesting strategy. We know that over the last, I'm gonna say 7 years, if you were to say which side of the aisle is doing a better job of harnessing social media, I think it's a mixed bag. If you're talking about that from the point of view of which has a better top-down approach to social media, well, then that would almost certainly have to be the right and Donald Trump, at least in terms of his ability to generate his own independent following. So not only did he use Twitter excessively up until the January 6th insurrection, but many people, it created this ecosystem of like college-aged Republicans who act like they're 40 and the exact same blonde mom who just responds to everything that Trump tweets in 1,000 different forms. But anyway, there are a lot of them, and they like making memes, they like making videos where they get to fantasize about killing people on the opposite side of the aisle. It's a fun social media environment. What's interesting though is it's not like some of that stuff doesn't exist on the other side. It just isn't necessarily being driven by Joe Biden or by the White House. There certainly is independent media that's not on the right. The difference is that it's actually independent. Like the independent right-wing media is identical to Fox News and Newsmax. They're just generally a little bit younger, but they're still brought on there. They're spreading the same message. They support the same candidates and the same issues, the same culture war topics. Whereas Biden and these people that they're trying to get to now are not necessarily as natural allies because they're not both being paid by the same people. So I'm gonna be fascinated to see, like, are there political content creators on there? I mean, I could say I haven't been reached out to by Joe Biden or whatever, and it probably would have been a waste of time on their part. So that's not the worst idea, but it's gonna be interesting to see how successful this is. What I would say, and I understand there's gonna be a lot of pushback against this. My take would be, is it a good idea to create this sort of like lower tier independent content farm, basically, for your campaign? Yes, but the details are really gonna matter. So if all you're doing is hoping that like sort of shallow, like, like just a little bit of like a news of what's happening in the campaign is gonna really move the needle, I'm not sure that that's the case. I'm not sure that there's gonna be much appetite for that. I mean, you can bring in people who have large audiences. That doesn't mean they're gonna love this content. What I would say is, if you want to excite these people, then like dance moves are probably not going to be enough. What you need to do is give them a reason to actually support you. And I know that they understand this, at least on some level, because you'll recall that in the 2020 election, Joe Biden ran as if he was some sort of progressive. He understood that it wasn't just about, like, I don't know, a video of a TikTok influencer like putting rouge on him that's gonna move the needle. It's actually addressing the things that drive these people. And the issue for them is, it is way easier for Donald Trump or Ron DeSantis to give like the right younger base what they want, because those people have been trained to want the right things from the point of view of Republican elites. They can get them fired up about a couple of culture war topics where it doesn't hurt them or their benefactors to talk about that. For Biden, though, he really doesn't want to give young voters everything that they want. Do you think he wants to have an extended, frank conversation about the climate crisis? Really? Or about the filibuster? Or pick a topic, really, about Medicare for all? No, it's a little bit harder to just give easy culture war wins, because look, I'm not saying that there's nobody on the left or in the center that doesn't find those things interesting in some cases, but it does not drive mass like political movements in the same way as it does on the right. You need to give them something real, something substantive, and I'm not 100% sure that they're totally gonna be willing to do that. That doesn't mean that they won't still win when it comes to the young voters. Young voters, and here it's being defined as aged 18 to 29, preferred Biden over Trump by 26 points in 2020, and Democrats were favored by them over Republicans by 28 points in the 2022 midterms. So those are significant wins, and I think definitive wins in some of these Senate races. They want to do even better, though, and I don't think the videos are going to be enough. I think you have to give substance too.
For more political news, breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/thedamagereport. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.